Good morning, everybody. I am Ross Weaver, the chairman of the Legislative Affairs Committee for the Midlothian Chamber of Commerce. Our CEO, Laura Terhune, is not feeling well this morning, but she does send her greetings and has thrown me to the wolves to take her place today. I had a lot of notice and I prepared very well, so you guys should not experience any technical difficulties. At this time, I'd like to ask Pastor Wayne Sheffield to come forward and offer the invocation. He, in addition to being a pastor, he's also a past president of the Midlothian Economic Development Corporation. Is that correct?
Yeah. Let's pray. Father God, we're thankful for this season. We're thankful for the opportunity to gather, have fellowship with one another. We're thankful for this community, and we're asking, Lord, that you continue to bless every family represented in this community, every business, and everyone, and especially under the umbrella of the reason for the season. We thank you for this food. We thank you for the blessing of your many provisions. We thank you for the nourishment that we can live to be the kind of servants and leaders you prepare us to be. We pray all these things in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sheffield, for leading our invocation. In addition to our speaker, Mr. Ellzey, we have several other elected officials with us today. It's my pleasure to introduce them. As each name is read, please stand, and we ask the audience to please hold your applause until all of our elected officials have been introduced. Then we have with us State Representative Brian Harrison. With Ellis County, we have the County Judge, Todd Little. Perfect. Tax Assessor, Richard Rozier. The City of Midlothian, Mayor Richard Reno. Councilperson Walter Dara. And we also have our city manager, who's not elected, but Chris Dick's pretty important, so we're going to notify or recognize him as well. With the City of Ovilla, Doug Hunt. And then I have in my notes the City of Oakleaf, Mayor Tom Leverance.
Leverage, yes.
Perfect. Did I butcher your last name?
Not too bad.
Perfect. Is there any other elected officials that I did not have a note of? Please stand and be recognized. If not, join me in thanking them. We'd like to take this time to publicly thank the Chamber's key volunteers and leadership. If you are on the Chamber Board, a Chamber Committee, or a Chamber Ambassador, please stand and be recognized. All right, we're back. Last but not least, our Chamber staff continually strives to fix our microphones and speakers and to provide the best possible customer service, resources, and information to you, our Chamber membership. Please help me thank Laura Terhune, Chamber CEO, Mary Beth Bartlett, the Special Events Manager, Miranda DeLay, the Social Media Manager, and Judy Bates, the Membership Director. Thank you. This event would not be possible without our presenting sponsors, Atlas Energy and Access Self-Storage. Thank you so very much for your support. We would also like to recognize Ndaa as our community partner sponsor. And last but not least, thank you to our corporate sponsors, Frost Bank, Wholesome, Town Square Title, and the City of Midlothian. At this time, I would like to ask Doug Hunt, co-owner of Access Self-Storage, to come forward. As one of our presenting sponsors, he will introduce today's speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor for me to be able to introduce my good friend, Representative Jake Ellzey. Newly elected Congressman Jake Ellzey proudly represents Texas' 6th congressional district, which spans from Rangers Ballpark in Tarrant County to the booming suburbs of Ellis County in Navarro County. Ellzey is a native of Texas, lives with his wife Shelby and the 2 children on a 10-acre ranch in Ellis County, where they have spent the last decade. At the age of 7, Jake decided he wanted to become a hydrophile. That's pretty young, Jake. 15 years later, he was a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, earning a Bachelor of Science degree in Political Science. Since his graduation, Ellzey has served our country in Texas over 33 years. Throughout his 20-year naval career, Ellzey flew H-60 helicopters, F-15 Tomcats, F-A-18 Hornets, and Super Hornets in defense of our nation. He has logged 830 carrier landings and has served a tour as joint terminal attack controller on the ground embedded with Navy SEALs. He was deployed 9 times during his career with 5 combat tours over Afghanistan and 2 in Iraq. Following his tour as commanding officer of Strike Fighter Squadron, he served as the air boss on the USS Ronald Reagan. After his Navy career, he served Texas as commissioner of the Texas Veterans Commission, state representative of the 10th District of Texas, and ran a small business and worked as an airline pilot. Southwest, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So without further ado, let's give Jake a big hand.
Thank you, Doug, for that introduction. Thank you to all you who are here. And apparently I made a couple of people panic, but my staff keeps me right on time, on target. We were at the GAF plant in Ennis earlier, and it is a remarkable place. And coupled with Owens Corning, GAF is not, this area is really the roofing center of the universe, as well as cement plants. So Ellis County has a lot going on, and it was a remarkable trip to see that plant this morning. So thank you, Doug, for that introduction. Thank you all for being here, and I'd certainly like to thank the one person who I absolutely have to have support of and rely on, and my best friend and my beautiful bride, Shelby Ellzey, for putting up with me for 14 years. She had no idea what ride she was getting on, and frankly, neither did I, but we never pass up an opportunity to serve, and we never pass up an opportunity for adventure. And I wish I had more than 5 minutes to talk about, because there's just not much going on in this country. So it's going to be short. There is a lot going on. You know, when I started thinking about what I was going to talk about today, and how I like to look from big picture and then break it down into something that we can all understand, because what's going on in Washington, D.C., and the people who are there, and the way that they think in terms of trillions and billions, and they throw it around like it's nothing, like it's imaginary. So you can just put a couple of B's on it and you'll make everybody happy. And then trying to translate that to what's going on locally, and there's a lot. We could probably be here for a couple of days to talk about the things that are facing you in this country. But right now is a time of hope. This is the season of hope. And I don't want to detract from that in any way, shape, or form, because as I look around this room at my friends, the people who have been behind me since this endeavor started, first my run for state representative and then for Congress, you are all my friends. Somebody actually said, well, I called you Jake. That's who I am. I am Jake. Washington and Austin. Austin and Washington. They are Six Flags and Disney World for politicos. They're not real places. Brian will tell you that. Brian was there, after his election, he was there for a very short time, and I think he would probably agree with me that it's kind of a strange place where people throw around big numbers and money as if it's not it's all conceptual. And I think what you're seeing at the federal government level is governance by people for whom life is an academic exercise. The things that occur in Washington, D.C., that's where they live, that's where they work. As long as it happens in Washington, D.C., it must be real. You've often heard me say I'm a Reagan Republican, and by that I mean not any specific type. I'm certainly not the communicator that he is. I certainly don't dress as well as he does, and my hair is not quite as good as his was. But what I mean by that is that the sun's going to come up tomorrow. America's brightest days are ahead of us. But as you start tabulating what's going on in this country right now, you would probably also agree that we're going to have a high noon before we get the sun coming up tomorrow. There are a lot of things that we discuss and talk about and brief and vote on in Washington, D.C. that absolutely makes no sense. I'm going to leave the politics part out of it and merely talk about combat effectiveness, because that's what I've dealt with for 20 years in the Navy. Is something combat effective? In the civilian world, in the business world, it's measures of effectiveness. So let's talk about measures of effectiveness for what's going on in the federal government right now. As you look from the top down, from the presidency on down, and who is controlling the House and the Senate, the entire federal government is under control of one party. Specifically, the party that's in charge of the White House has a group of cabinet secretaries who I think you would argue, most of whom are scholars. I'm not trying to take anything away from scholars. My uncle is a quantum physicist at UTEP, but I wouldn't want him running my country. They have their role, they do great research, but when it comes down to actually functioning as a government, you need people who have had real-world experiences, running businesses, running the military, fighting in combat, failing, running for election. I think about what happened in Afghanistan and the world stage as it's set today, and what happened on August 15th was a direct result of people for whom life is an academic exercise, running a real-world evacuation and a withdrawal from a war that we've been involved in for 20 years. The accumulation of that is $80 billion worth of our military equipment left in Afghanistan. 13 men and women killed at the gates of an airport that we should not have been using, and the Secretary of State being in charge of that operation both then and after the explosion. That should have turned into a military operation the minute that bomb went off. And we should have immediately launched the AC-130s, the F-18s, the B-1s, the B-52s, anything else we have in our arsenal, and cleared out that area to protect Americans, our allies, our interpreters, our friends, and taken that airport back and taken back Barbara. I was in the airport coming back from Washington, D.C. 2 days ago. And this guy picked me up, because I don't keep my pickup there. I never know when I'm coming back. Nancy has her own schedule and I have mine, and I have to follow hers. And I get the pickup, and it's a guy named Fanu, F-N-U. And I asked him what that meant. And it's basically no middle name. He doesn't have no. I said, well, where are you from? He said, I'm from Afghanistan. So now I got really interested. Most of the time I'm sitting there just, want to go to sleep. I'm really interested. I said, well, what did you do in Afghanistan? I said, I was an interpreter. And so now I'm starting to get really curious. I said, well, do you have family there? He said, yes, my parents and my two underage siblings, a sister who's 14. I said, well, what are they doing? He said, they're hiding. Because they've been coming out of their house since August 15th, because they knew that he was an interpreter. It seems like it's a conceptual idea that Afghanistan is so far away, and the people who supported us are so far away that you can kind of put that in a book and not really think about it very much. But here's this young man who spoke perfect English, by the way, so it did occur to me that he would be from Afghanistan. I said, how did you learn that? He said, I watched American TV, and I love this guy. And so he came over here, and he's working 2 jobs, and he's trying to get his family back. Now, folks, I'm here to tell you, if that doesn't choke you up, that he's got a 14-year-old sister over there, in a country that's being run by the Taliban. She steps outside that house, she can't go to school anymore, she can't go uncovered, most likely to be killed. And they need help, and you know who's in charge is the State Department, and they're not doing their jobs. They're covering up the number of Americans who are there. That's a measure of effectiveness. It doesn't matter what party you're in. It does not matter. This is the United States of America. We own the moral high ground in this world. Pure and simple. I don't care what any other group tells you that might be here or abroad. We own the moral high ground. unless we cede it back. We cannot be allowed to cede back the moral high ground. Most of the people who are in this country are like you, sitting in this room. You're about to celebrate Christmas, spend time with families, enjoying the way of life here in the United States. There's a lot of people who aren't. If I'm not for the United States, and make no mistake, I'm not a neocon, but I do know what's right and wrong. At the end of the day, the whole conflict of humanity is good versus evil. Good exists here, exists in this room, and that's what this country represents. And evil's out there too. So let's talk about our southern border. I've been consulted that I shouldn't say the word open border. But you and I both know it is. Too many people come through. They're not tested for COVID. But furthermore, illegal immigrants coming in, and 2 million that we know we've seen come through. But worse than that is fentanyl and heroin coming up that poisons our youth. We have an all-volunteer force in the military, 1 million strong. 1 out of every 100 people serve. That fentanyl is killing our youth by the hundreds of thousands. Last year we had 100,000 overdose deaths attributed to fentanyl, made in China. There's going to be a trend here that we're talking about this morning. Made in China, fentanyl, human trafficking, modern day slavery. Let's call it what it is. It is slavery. It's coming up through the border. So as we're discussing these civil rights issues in the United States right now, we have through Ellis County, we have I-45, 35, and 67 coming up. It comes up from the border. There's a lot of human traffic coming up through here, and it goes right into Fort Worth. It is a scourge of evil that must be stopped. So for no other reasons, you take out the 2 million people who are coming here for a better life, which is odd because the left would tell you that this place is not a good place. But it is, and they're coming here for that reason. Refugees will always exist. But it's the primary responsibility of the federal government to protect American citizens. Everything else comes after that. So on that measure of effectiveness, we're not doing it. Overseas. I had the opportunity to go with Senator Cornyn, 3 other senators, and Tony Gonzalez from San Antonio to go on a congressional delegation to the Indo-Pacific region, the Indian and Pacific region of the world. I talked to 2 4-star admirals who were in Pearl Harbor, 2 guys I used to work for and flew with. They're both Hornet and Super Hornet pilots. And we talked about what China is doing overseas. And I think the picture is now clear that 20 years ago, when we gave them most favored nation status with trade, and we selected strategic ambiguity when it comes to the island of Taiwan, that was a different time or a different era. President Xi Jinping has now gotten their legislature to give him president for life. And he has outlawed Winnie the Pooh. If you think I'm joking, I am not. But it is a joke. Some years ago, when President Xi and Barack Obama were walking along, somebody took a picture of him. And President Xi is not exactly tall, nor is he exactly what we call thin. And he's walking next to President Obama. So it was Tigger and Winnie the Pooh. So when the movie Christopher Robin came out, he banned it. Now, the second most powerful man in the world has such thin skin that he's banning Winnie the Pooh. So let's talk about what China's doing in the world. They've made no mistake that they want to reunify with Taiwan. And one thing we learned on this trip over there is, if you weren't paying attention to the world history that is writ large, Taiwan was never part of China. After the Communist Revolution, Chiang Kai-shek fled to Taiwan with his people, and that's where they built a phenomenal economy and democracy. And they're very much like Israel. They're 5 minutes from extinction, and they got 24 million people. And their neighbors to the north are threatening them. In India, there are 60,000 troops amassed on the Indian border. Chinese troops on the Indian border. They got into a fight last year. China is using Pakistan as a proxy in Afghanistan. China has made it very, very clear through the Belt and Road system that they want to dominate the world. And they're actually taking people's countries' land away from them if they can't pay the bill. So China is actually a threat. Russia, at the same time, is massing 175,000 troops on the border of Ukraine. I find it odd that most of the government took 20 planes to go to Scotland to talk about climate change. Climate change. Everybody remember 1991 when Saddam set off the oil wells in Kuwait? Nothing affects climate change like a world war. So does this look like 1938 to you around the world? You have Russia, a strong man, very little background. He's got an inferiority complex. And China, with a man who's got a shady background, an inferiority complex, massing troops around the border around the world. You know why that is? It's because we have shown ourselves to be weak to our allies in Afghanistan. Now, we also just passed the Ndaa, National Defense Authorization Act, which is going to help secure the border, which is showing the requiring the Biden administration to give us accountability for what happened in Afghanistan, how many actual Americans are in Afghanistan. We don't anticipate that he will veto that bill. Provides a 2.7% increase in wages for our military. So it is sending a signal that the Congress is standing up to the weakness of this administration moving forward. Because I think the only thing, if you grew up in a public school, you recognize that bullies pick on the weak. If you portray yourself that way, that leads to war. That led to World War II, led to World War I. I do not want it to lead to World War III, nor will I think it will. So on that trip, we went to India. India's got 1.1 billion people. China has 1.4 billion. And they don't like China. So suddenly India is our best friend. And we are making inroads to that. Japan is actually taking the lead in saying that they are going to defend Taiwan, and we're not hiding behind the U.S.'s shadow anymore. Because they're going to defend Taiwan. And so are we. And those two four-star admirals that I talked to said, don't listen to what you read in the press about ships colliding, submarines colliding, aircraft crashing as a measure of what our military is capable of. Because knowing the four-star that I talked to, Pappy Paparo, he doesn't go to war without people that are trained. And I said to him, are we ready? He said, he's from Philadelphia. And he's a good Catholic. But if you know Philly Catholics, they like to cuss a little bit. So I won't use the words that he said. But he said, we're ready. And I believe him. And we have a lot of capabilities that aren't talked about in the press. So that leads me so we have lots of capabilities, and we have a lot of countries that are pushing back against China right now. And I have no reason to suspect that the world's not going to rise up before conflict erupts. So in this season of hope, keep that in mind. That while the media is talking about things that seem to not matter, you have a bunch of people out there on the front lines who are ready to defend our country and defend our allies, no matter what happened in Afghanistan. So now we come to the home front, which everybody here is paying attention to consumer price index. So 6.8% inflation. We just gave our military a 2.7% raise. I made it through with very little math in high school, but if you do the numbers, those numbers don't add up very well. CPI does not include food, and fuel. Well, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't really realize that until this week, but fuel have probably gone up 50%, depending on what you're looking at. Fuel prices in California are now $7.50 a gallon. So I'm very grateful for our $2.80 a gallon of fuel here. But on that measure of effectiveness, on the economy, on inflation, we are not doing well. Additionally, based on the policies of this government through the time of COVID, we have 10 million fewer workers than we have jobs available right now. That also lends itself to inflation. So on measures of effectiveness, and as I said, I don't care about the party. All I look at is measures of effectiveness. It might appear that times are dark. It looks very much like 1979, where the only thing that's missing is solar panels on the White House, but if you'll recall, Jimmy Carter was in charge. We had lines at the gas station. There was a shortage of fuel, which I might add, this administration has canceled the Keystone Pipeline and actually took measures away from Russia, encouraging them to build the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which ships all of its gas to Europe. So they've got another financial weapon at their disposal at the Nord Stream 2. And we're asking Saudi Arabia to pump more oil, and we're actually shipping it in from Iran. So taking a step back from that, looking at the big picture, I don't see anything this administration is doing to secure our country or make it more prosperous. But Congress does have a plan, and I think we're working on that. And in 2022, I think we're going to take back the House and start putting a stop to what we all see as empowering other countries at our expense. I don't want to see that. Neither do you. And I think that the brighter days are going to be ahead. But like I said, it's going to be Gary Cooper at high noon when everybody else is running away. Somebody's going to have to stand up and put a stop to this. So we've had a couple of bills passed lately, the infrastructure bill and the BBB. The infrastructure bill was signed into law by the president. It was a $1.2 trillion bill, but half of that money is not infrastructure. In fact, it's almost identical to the bill that President Trump passed in 2017, except half of this one is junk. So where are we right now in terms of national debt? We're at 122% of debt to GDP ratio, which hasn't been seen since 1946, and that was when we came out of World War II and the Great Depression. Well, we haven't seen either of those things, and we have that much debt. That's going to take tremendous cost cuttings moving forward in the next few years, which I'm all about. And I think that that's something that we should go at very, very hard. They have young children. I have young children. Some of you have young grandchildren. We do not want to leave that debt to them. So when it's time to take back the House in 2022 and the Senate, we have to start governing. And then we have to take back the White House in 2024. The National Defense Authorization Project affects a lot of jobs in this vicinity. That was how we fund our military every year. So you're going to see that every year. And every year it's going to have some controversy surrounding it. If you've gotten any words about what this thing is going to do, bad things like red flag gun laws, none of that stuff is in it. It's a clean bill that basically Mike Rogers, who's a Republican, wrote, fixed, and we have funding our military right now. Carbon factory in Red Oak actually is building one of the MQ-4 drones that the Navy uses, so this directly affects that. It directly affects Lockheed Martin, buys a whole lot of new Super Hornets, and as I said, it gives our military the means of operating with some certainty for the next year. But the NDA also affects the border. It continues funding for the deployment of National Guard to the border, and it reauthorizes the DoD to support U.S. law enforcement counter-narcotic and counter-transnational crime efforts. I think it's extremely important that we continue to do that, and this bill does that, and it ties the president's hand into doing it. I'm really not going to spend much time talking about the BBB because I don't think it's going to pass out of the Senate. There's a lot of questions you folks probably have. $7 trillion bill on that, a lot of Green New Deal stuff. Additionally, they were going to fund 87,000 new IRS agents, which were going to go after your bank accounts to make sure that you were paying your taxes. This bill's not going to make it out. Manchin and Sinema are not going to let that happen. But I have a bigger question. If the border is open, we got 2 million people, why aren't we hiring 87,000 new Border Patrol agents? Yeah. That's what we should be doing. We should be locking that border down. As I said, it's not just illegal immigration. They're destroying our country from the inside with narcotics, human trafficking, pure evil, and fentanyl coming in from China. For the last 2 years, we've been locked down by a virus, which came from China. There's a term that we use in the military called asymmetric warfare. Asymmetric warfare means nobody's going to go up against me and my Super Hornet. No other country is going to come out at us because they can't beat us. They might be able to beat B, but they can't beat the Super Hornet. We have the best military in the world. Head to head, nobody's going to go after us. So if you take a step back and look at what has happened in the world, and nobody really kind of puts this picture in one statement, but fentanyl coming in, which destroys our youth. Multi-pronged threats throughout the world. Right now, China's Navy is bigger than ours for a regional Navy. We're a worldwide Navy. 5 minutes to extinction for Taiwan. What I forgot to tell you is 60% of all the chips that go in all of your equipment, your phones, your cars, your appliances, come from TSMC in Taiwan. China wants the means of production and controlling that throughout the world, because they were all in their head pockets. So there's a lot of threats facing us, but we are pushing back. As we talk about what affects us locally, the BB bill also makes the corporate tax rate 26.5, which is higher than China, and it's going to affect our family farms, resulting in a top tax rate of 57%. As I said before, I have hope. This is the season of hope that that's going to make it past the Senate, Mansion and Senate and the Senate. So I feel very good about that. High-speed rail, anyone? Lots of infrastructure, lots of money, $12 billion in loans in the infrastructure bill for high-speed rail. But the wording in it does not allow anything looking like Texas Central at all. They can't get access to the loans, which is, now they're saying their budget is $24 billion. They can't do that without the loans, and the way the bill is written, there's no legal means for them to get access to that $12 billion to destroy our community. As I've told you many, many times, this is the hill I will die on if I have to. I don't need to be a congressman. I like being a congressman, but my job is to represent this community and preventing atrocities like the high-speed rail from destroying our community, killing our family farms, and destroying families as they are right now. And we're working very hard with that. Kevin Brady in Houston is leaving, and he's going to pass the mantle on to me to be the anti-high-speed rail crusader in the Congress to make sure that that thing never comes to pass. And that's my promise to you. So, let's go a little bit more local. We've got a new district coming up. We're going to lose a lot of Tarrant County. We're going to gain a little bit of Dallas County. And we're going to gain half of Johnson, east of Cleveland, all of Hill County. So Hillsborough is going to be in the district. Freestone, Anderson, so half of Freestone, all of Anderson, which has Palestine, and Cherokee counties. That's good for us. That's going to make District 6 very rural. So that's going to make it more like Ellis County, and I'm very excited about it. So in essence, we've gone from 3 counties to 9. The little part of Dallas County is Irving. We still have most of Mansfield and a little bit of Arlington. So this districts are going to look completely different. That should encourage all of you, because now there's not going to be any mixed messages between what one part of the community needs and what the other part of the community needs. So a lot of this is affected. We have a lot of agriculture here. We have a lot of industry. We have a lot of aerospace, and we have a lot of the best people on the planet. All the redistricting has meant is we're going to go from 36 seats to 38, and anticipating both of those going red, and this district is going to be much more Republican going forward than it was previously. There is a lawsuit underway. I had no part of that. I had no part in how the districts were built, but I'm glad the way they turned out. The primary is still going to be on March 1st, so I don't anticipate any changes. And ironically, the way that this district was built going up into Irving, which was a surprise to everybody, I think most everybody, right, Brian? The way that we had an amendment go through from a legislator in Dallas who's a Democrat that kind of carved us out into a little piece in Dallas. And so that's how it is, and I'll accept whatever results there are. So it's going to be an exciting time. I've got a lot more territory to travel, but I'm excited about that too, because it's as you go to each of these counties, they've got a great courthouse right in the middle, and they got about 50,000 people in each county who believe in freedom. They believe in the federal government leaving them alone most of the time, the federal government protecting them, which is their #1 job, and other than that, leaving them alone. Let us educate our kids the way we deem fit, like we do here, and stay out of my life. And give me more of my money back, because I earned it. So, what do I see going forward? 2022, the Republicans will control the House and the Senate. 2024, they'll take back the White House. This is just a prediction, and again, it's not political. That's just the winds as they are blowing. And then we're going to get our fiscal house under control, and we're going to be a good neighbor and a good ally to our friends. And at the same time, we're going to encourage free markets here locally and the United States and the world. We're gaining a lot of allies from what's going on in the rest of the world. So in this season of hope, when sometimes, depending on the news media outlet that you look at, things seem bleak, I'm here to tell you, as I look around and I go to Washington, D.C., the people I surround myself with and who I work with and enjoy, there's good Americans serving you in Congress up there right now. You know who doesn't talk to them? The media. I'll tell you a quick story. I've been there for like a week. I still don't know where everything is. I literally have to have people direct me to how to get to the floor. It's just a Byzantine place. And we've just voted, and I'm walking out of the chamber, and I happen to be behind a squad member. Not a police officer, but one of the squad. And there are a whole bunch of media types, 25 to 30-year-olds, right there as we go out through the metal detector. Now, real quick. The 435 people who are duly elected to serve you in Congress have to go through a metal detector. That is the chamber that you elected me to go into. Come January 23, those metal detectors are going to be gone. Come 2023, you will be able to sit in the gallery and watch your government at work, which you cannot do right now. But those changes are going to come. So anyway, I'm walking out the chamber, I'm behind her, and it was instant. There were about 15 to 20 people talking to her. To date, I've been asked twice to provide comment going up the steps into the chamber. And in both times, they thought I was Anthony Gonzalez of Ohio. Now, Anthony is a former pro football player who's also bald. So I take it as a compliment that they mistook me for somebody else. But right now, they don't want to hear what mainstream United States thinks. So when you look at the media, I would urge you to listen to local TV and local news to get what was really going on in the world. Because the strange world of Fox, CNN, MSNBC, all those groups, they're not really portraying what's going on in the United States. And that's one of the things that I've learned is that there is a lot of silliness in Washington, D.C., and you know what the Founding Fathers knew it was going to be like. They don't want big bills like the $7 trillion BBB making it through Congress easily. That's how they built it. So us stopping this is good news. I want you to know, take heart. There's a lot of good people just like you representing you up there in Washington, D.C. They're hardworking people who just believe in the things that we do here. So in this season of hope, take hope. Things are going to be better tomorrow. But it might be high noon today. So we'll get there. Just keep faith in God and hope in man. Because Ecclesiastes 1:9 says there's nothing new under the sun. 1979, 1968, 1918, 1941, 1861. We've been through rough times before, but God put this country on this planet to be the bright, shining city on the hill. Sometimes we can't get out of our own way, but we're all sinners, and we'll get it back. So I'm glad that I represent this area. I'm a quiet professional, just like all of you. I'm blessed to have been elected. It's an honor I take every day, and in fact, when I walk into the Capitol, I walk outside. You can walk underneath into the tunnels. I don't. Because I want to look at that building. And all it represents, and the people that I represent, I want to be looking at that every day. Because it does represent the best of us. We just have to get out of our own ways. I would encourage you to come up and see me anytime. I had Brian up there, great view from the roof of the Longworth office building. I'll sneak you in if I have to. Then we sneak out through the window. I wear a dress.
He's not making that up. He'll sneak you out through the window.
Yeah. Sneak out through the window and take a view of your cabinet in the office that is yours in Longworth office building. It belongs to you. I believe that every day. I start my day reading the Bible every day, realizing this has all been done before. We do it for a higher purpose. So I'd like to end with, I thank the Lord Jesus Christ for my life and for bringing her into my life and for bringing you into my life. So I appreciate your time. I hope I didn't get too wordy. I hope I've hit some things that you liked. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Is that Ross? Ross, is that right? Okay. I'm open for questions. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned being encouraged in 2024, and what's the Republicans going to do about the hundreds of thousands that have come across that are going to get their Democrat card for illegal voting? Are we going to put up some stuff so we don't go through what we went through?
Well, I think fortunately from what we're seeing with the heartbeat bill, with a Supreme Court that is now leaning towards more constructionists. I'm not even going to talk about parties, it's constructionists. Those issues that you're addressing are illegal, and everybody knows it. The folks who are virtue signaling with proposing those policies know they're illegal. They are appealing to a base which they think, when they watch MSNBC, represents the majority of the country, and therefore they're trying to appeal to. Brian saw this up in Washington, D.C. I think he would agree with me that there's about 10% of the country that thinks that way. And they think if they see you on TV, which is why they surrounding AOC, a 30-year-old bartender from Brooklyn, as the titular head of the Democrat Party, these people don't think that way because they had to have a job, and they have families that they raise. So I'd encourage you that the courts have been taking care of theirs. They know it's illegal. It is a scary thing when you see it on the media. What is going to be done? So nothing's going to happen with that. They can't. It's illegal. But that's also why you're seeing everybody fleeing from California. The recall election for Gavin Newsom, they timed that poorly because all the voters that they needed to kick him out of office, they live here. 70% of the refugees from California, they're conservative. You see them starting to run for office. They're starting to involve themselves locally, politically. The way of life here is fantastic. They love it. And so they were never going to win that election because everybody already left California. So take hope. That stuff's not going to happen. And if it happens in California, California's already written their, I don't know how much further they can fall. They're in a tremendous amount of debt. They're a broke state. They're broke morally, ideologically. But they were also there before. And then with Ronald Reagan, there was a resurgence in the 60s, and then Pat Brown. So I'm encouraged. And I think once you recognize that some of the silly stuff you see is just silly, you can take hope in that, and that it's not a real place. California is not a real place, neither is Washington or Austin. Any other questions? Nothing's too hard. I will answer any question. If I can, I'll find out for you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to, actually, I'm a former refugee from California. I've been here a long time, I had to get out of there. Could you address quickly the threat of a Navy base in China and the Atlantic basin?
In the one off of Africa?
Yes.
Equatorial Guinea?
Is that going to happen?
That is the question was, China is now placing they are probably going to place a Navy base in Equatorial Guinea on the west coast of Africa. And that is what the Belt and Road system has brought. It is it's a loan sharking way of helping out distressed third world nations with loans that cannot be met to rebuild infrastructure. And then once they don't pay China back, China literally takes over the land that they financed. So that's what they're doing in Equatorial Guinea. I'll tell you that while they have more ships, they don't have 11 aircraft carriers. They don't have a robust strike capability from carriers. So they're rattling on a lot of sabers. But if you bought anything from China, it may look good, but the bones aren't. So I'm also encouraged by the fact that while they outnumber us, it means that they are wanting to project power around the world. That doesn't mean that they have the same capabilities we do, because they don't. But you can do a lot with a nuclear weapon. You can do a lot with a nuclear weapon atop a ballistic missile. You only have to be in horseshoes. You only have to be close. So that's what we're concerned about, and that's why India bought the S-400, which we censured, or we decided not to sell the F-35 to Turkey because of the S-400 Russian missile system that they bought. We're probably not going to do that with India because India has its own troubles that they need to confront. They're still going to be a very good friend. I'd like to close with one more thing. I promised you that I would be helping out veterans. And the first bill I got passed, I made it through it 39 days after introduction. I've got a Senator Cornyn companion bill in the Senate. It's called the Vital Assessment Act, which is going to help veterans who come back from the military enter the civilian life and then enter the student population at colleges and schools and colleges across the country. I'm very proud of that, and that should probably be on the president's desk sometime within the next month. I'm very proud of that. I'm going to continue bipartisanship. There's one thing that the Republicans and the Democrats agree upon right now, and I'm so proud of it, and that's care for our veterans and our active duty. Everybody cares. We don't have any of the committees, so the committee chair and all the Democrats voted for this bill to pass through. So it was a unanimous passage. I'm very grateful for that. So when you start worrying about how far apart we are, yeah, we're far apart on a lot of different things, but one thing we come together, which should give you hope for the future, is veterans issues. I'm so grateful for that. Any other questions? None? Yes, ma'am.
It'd be great. I think it's a great ending point to talk about bipartisanship, because most of us in this room, we don't live in, these extremes of left and right. Most of us live our lives somewhere in the middle. So if you talk a little bit about what you see as bipartisanship priorities for you as a congressman representing this district, and what we can expect to see in that regard.
Well, I'm on Science, Space, and Technology Committee and the VA Committee. And generally, most bills emanate from somebody in the committee that they sit on. So I'm not on House Armed Services. I'm not on the Appropriations Committee. I'm not in Energy and Commerce. I'm not on any of those. So I like to concentrate on, I may have some message bills out there, but I don't have any currently, which is one I know is not going to pass, but I'm going to put it out there anyway to show, I believe in measures of effectiveness. So let's work on what we can work on right now. The NDAA passed through the bipartisanship on that, and we got a lot of stuff that was bad, that had nothing to do with funding our military or taking care of our veterans or giving our troops a pay raise. It got swiped. It got out of there, and we don't control that committee. And right now we're waiting on the Senate to vote on it. There's a true bipartisan effort on it. At the end of the day, when you take out the people who get all the media attention, the 10%, the squad, and people who just rant and rave all the time, again, you think that they must all be like that. They're not. Most people, and if you look at the numbers on who voted for the National Defense Authorization Act, it was 330, I believe, out of 435. I think 65-ish, 65 Dems, 19 Republicans voted against it for whatever reason. So there is bipartisanship in that. Defense of the nation, at the end of the day, is a bipartisan effort, as our veterans issue. And I think everything else will kind of split. Certainly the debt. I mean, we've got to be fiscally responsible. Other people think we need to print money. And as you talk about $7 trillion in spending, when you're already in an inflationary economy with 10 million jobs that aren't being filled, with supply chain issues at all the ports, you think inflation is going to go up or down? It's here for the next year, unless we do some radical changes, and that means start to cut costs. In 1946, when we had 102% of GDP, debt versus GDP, the federal government cut over 50% of its spending. You know what happened? The markets took over. And almost immediately, the economy took off. And it ran unabated, especially under Eisenhower's presidency, but also under Truman's. They just cut the spending. Because government spending, a dollar goes to less than $1, because they take their overhead off and then it goes in. In the market, that dollar expands 6 times. We're in the Chamber of Commerce meeting. You guys know that. So let the market do the job. I think we should follow the NFL's plan. Everything should be a meritocracy. You don't get started unless you're any good. And the federal government does not create jobs. It hinders them. So let's unleash this economy. Cut back on that tax rate. Because the money we're going to get in tax, we've been through this before. So I'm a Reagan Republican in more ways than one. But we're going to have to address this debt. No country has sustained 122% of debt to GDP in history. So we're a special nation. That can't be achieved. So that's why I believe at the end of the day, that BBB is not going to happen. Any other questions? Well, this is a wonderful time to be here. This is my first meeting as your congressman. I've been in for 4.5 months. It's been a pleasure every day. Maybe not every day, but I am proud to serve you, and I always keep you in mind in my conduct, in the words that I say, and in how I vote every day. So I hope to be there for a while, and God bless you all for sending me. And no matter whether you voted for me or not, I represent you, and that's how I view this. So thank you very much. Thanks, Ross. Thanks to the Chamber of Commerce. Thanks, friends. Thanks, Shelby. And God bless all of you. Merry Christmas.
much, Congressman Ellzey, for that informative update. And also, thanks to the members of the City Council and commission members who serve the residents and businesses of this community. Whether you're serving at the local, state, or national level, it is a labor of love. None of the positions, some of them don't pay at all at the state and local level, and at the national level, they don't pay enough for all the crap they have to deal with on our behalf to stand up for our interests. So just let's give a round of applause to all the elected officials. I don't see anything resembling door prizes, so perfect. All right, I would like to call your attention to some upcoming events listed in your program. Hopefully you'll be able to join as your schedule permits. The Chamber Ambassadors hosted their second annual Spirit of Christmas raffle last week, and thanks to local shoppers, the Chamber was able to make a donation of $5,000 to Manna House and $900 to the Pause for Reflection group. Way to go, Chamber Ambassadors. Laura texted me a last minute update here. She says, don't forget that January 12th will be the next Chamber Luncheon. Mark your calendar for that, because we'll be getting an update on current and upcoming projects from our local TxDOT area engineer's office. Those guys always do a great job with a lot of information, and if you want to know why there's not a stoplight somewhere or why a road doesn't get wide enough somewhere, that's a great time to come and ask them, because they'll be trapped in here for at least an hour. So, make sure you've signed up ahead of time so we know how many to serve that meeting on January 12th. Thanks again to our presenting sponsors, Atmos Energy and Access Self-Storage, and thank you to all of our sponsors for their support, including your Ndaa, our community sponsor, Frost Bank, Wholesale, Town Square Title, and the City of Midlothian, our corporate sponsors. And thank you all for attending today's luncheon or watching online, and we'll see you at the next Chamber event. Thank you.